Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my first drive video of the brand new 2019 Audi S6 Avant parked behind me. I have this car for the next 10 days, so I'm going to be doing a full comprehensive review at the end of the term. Today I'm going to be focusing on a quick walk around of the vehicle, having a look inside the cabin and take it out for a first drive and my first initial impressions. Unlike the RS6, the S6 is also available as a saloon here in the UK, although I think most buyers are going to go for the wagon. There are two trim models at time of launch. The base model, which is the one I have, at £62,750 on the road, and the Vorsprung model, which is effectively a fully loaded car, at £80,000 on the road. But when I say I have a base model, it's a UK press car, so it actually has £15,000 worth of options thrown at it. The elephant in the room, of course, is that all Audi S models, here in the UK at least, are now diesels. So no longer does this have a V10 petrol like it did 2 generations ago, or a V8 petrol like it did in the last generation. This car actually has a 3-litre 6-cylinder turbocharged diesel engine. But don't tune out, because I think it makes a lot of sense in this package. Now, who doesn't love a fast Audi estate? I mean, they've looked good for the past 20 years or so, and this one is no exception. The new Audi A6, the base model, looks fantastic, and this one is obviously more aggressive. Front end looks stunning. There's a lot of talk on the internet about these ugly radars, and they don't look particularly good, I have to say, but they haven't ruined the front end. Fake vents, yes, well, of course it's an Audi, so there are going to be some, but it's not too bad around the front. The rest of it is all pretty genuine. Moving around to the side, just looks awesome. I love the flared arches that you can see more predominantly from the back. And I love these 21-inch wheels. I mean, they look amazing. 21-inch. They fill those arches perfectly, and I have to say, they are the nicest wheels that Audi make at the moment. Massive 6-pot calipers behind there, massive rotors. They might not look that big on the camera, because remember, this is a 21-inch wheel. Control and shift sticker, who put that there? I think the best angle of the car is around about here. Just looks absolutely awesome. I really can't wait to see what the RS6 looks, because this with more added aggression is going to be amazing. See those lovely 4 exhausts down there, the chrome 4 exhausts? That's not an Akrapovic, that's not a Remus. In fact, that's not even just the Audi own brand exhaust. They are completely fake, just like they are on, say, the Audi SQ5, completely. And these are actually plastic. And when you look under the car, you can actually see where the real exhausts are. Why they didn't just link them up, I don't know. It must have something to do with cost, but it is such a shame, because from sort of back here at 20 foot, it looks amazing, and you couldn't really tell that they're fake. But yeah, and what are they going to look like over time? What are those bits of plastic going to look like in 5 or 6 years? I don't know. But anyway, that's a massive letdown to an otherwise amazing exterior. Okay, let's have a quick look inside the car. As you'd expect with all Audis, cabin game is strong, very strong. At least initially it's extremely strong. This has got all of the new, I call it the twin slab architecture, that's a Joe Achilles term. But yeah, all of the latest sort of Audi infotainment. This one obviously has a virtual cockpit as standard. So we'll jump inside. But as you can already see from the camera, I've only driven this car once. There are lots and lots of grubby Joe fingerprints on here, and that is one of the problems with the new infotainment system, but we'll go into more detail on that later on. Now, having a look around in here, it is just lovely, super premium. This one's actually got sort of, they call it a panoramic roof, but it's actually 2 glass panels. The front one opens, the rear one's just a glass sunroof. Let's close the door. As with most modern Audis, they're not vent mount, mega mount friendly, so my friends at Mega Mount, actually sent me a windscreen mount, which is amazing. And yes, I'm not being paid to plug this, but I just absolutely love it. It works really well, and my phone just clips on there, very nice, and is out of the way of everything else. Anyway, back to the car. Let's just fire it up, watch everything come alive. There we go. So as you can see, again, once it's all fired up, it just looks stunning in here. Really, really nice. Let's turn this down. Okay. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Really cool. But yeah, when you actually try to use it, it's very difficult, and I'll talk about this more in the full review, and I've talked about it in other Audis that have this layout. It is very difficult when you're driving along to look down and just play with the temperature controls. Even when you've had this car for a few weeks, your normal car with your buttons or your dials, etc., like you can here with the volume control, you know where that is. You reach down, you can sort of roughly know where it is, you feel it, and you can turn it. But with any of this touchscreen stuff, I find it quite distracting, and you never really know where anything is unless you look down, which is kind of defeating the purpose of, you know, a modern car. So I'm not the biggest fan of touchscreen stuff, but I know a lot of people love it, and for a tech guy, for instance, this is probably heaven. But yeah, I would prefer to have more analog dials and things to actually touch and feel, as opposed to a completely flat screen. But there's no doubting that it looks absolutely cool. Yeah, it's just like a really high-tech iPad effectively. I'm looking around, I can see things like Bang & Olufsen sound. It's got radar cruise control. It's got everything you'd expect a near 80 grand car to have. And as I say, aside from the functionality of this, where say an iDrive I reckon blows it out of the water, there's no denying that this just looks amazing, looks beautiful. So let's just have a quick jump into the back of the car and have a look at cabin space, because I have a feeling that the back of this car especially has got a bit bigger compared to the last generation. Something else that is new is all of the door handles on some of the bigger modern Audis. They're no longer mechanical. You actually pull it slightly and it triggers a little motor inside the door that releases the door itself. So it's quite a weird experience when you first try it. Now, getting in here, you can see that's me, 6'4". There's plenty of legroom there. Really nice looking seats. But as with all modern Audis, the actual seat backs themselves just aren't quite long enough for someone that's over 6 foot. And I'll show you that once I jump inside. You can see you've got your individual climate controls in the back here, which are probably optional extras. I'm not sure, I'll need to do my homework on that. I've opened the sunroofs now, or at least the blinds, so there's plenty of light coming in. Let's jump inside. It's a 3-seat configuration back here, and the third seat, the middle seat, actually is pretty wide. But if I jumped across here now, obviously I've got to contend with the transmission tunnel, which is a fair old hefty transmission tunnel. I've actually got perfect amount of headroom. Reminder, 6'4", perfect. Shoulder room. I feel really comfortable back here. It feels really nice. Bring the center armrest down, and yeah, super comfortable. But yeah, back of the seat's not quite big enough. My shoulders are well over the top of it, and my head, as a result, is miles above the actual headrest itself. Right, let's have a quick look in the boot and then take this car out for a drive. Okay, so let's open the boot by pressing the key twice. There we go. And as you can see, yes, that is a big old boot. And there's extra secure storage under there. And in fact, under this, there's even more space to put all your cleaning products, first aid kits, tyre inflation, kiss your ass goodbye kits, etc, etc. That's really handy, just in case. There's some securing fixings here. I have a feeling there's something missing from this press car, because I'm sure there's meant to be like dividers, but they're not in here. Then you've got a really nice parcel shelf that obviously operates and closes and opens with the boot itself. Seats folded flat. There'll be a massive load area. You need to look it up to see what the actual official figure is. Maybe I'll put it on the screen. But actually, I'm going to take my bike out for a mountain bike ride today. So what better a car to take it to the mountain bike park in than this S6 Avant. Before putting my mountain bike in the car, I thought I'd give you a quick look around it. For those of you that are mountain bikers, I know there's quite a few on my channel. This is a Saracen Aerial LT. It's a full carbon frame, it's a full carbon rear triangle, 27.5-inch wheels, so bigger than your traditional 26-inch wheels, but obviously smaller than the 29ers that are out there. Mostly a full Shimano XT group set, Fox factory 36s on the front, and the Float X2 rear shock by Fox as well on the back. Incredible suspension technology and incredible bikes, these things. You're talking about 160 millimeters of travel front and rear, but yet this thing is light enough and stiff enough to pedal up some really steep inclines. So it's effectively a long travel extreme cross-country bike, or enduro bike if you like. In terms of folding the actual rear seats, so you just pull this to release those two, and this side obviously to release that one. And I reckon taking the front wheel off my bike and sliding the back end in should be enough. Okay guys, we're now on the move in the Audi S6 Avant. As you can see, hopefully on the camera, I've actually managed to fold down one of the rear seats. Number one, to keep the bike in place more and stop it coming forward if I were to have an accident or hit the brakes hard. But number two, to just show you how vast and big it is in the back there, because you've seen I've just taken the front wheel off my mountain bike and it's fitting in there with no issues whatsoever. I'm just cruising along now, and I think it's a good time to talk about the diesel unit that's under the bonnet, because as I said outside of the car, the S6 and the S4 are now diesel cars. A lot of people have got a lot of hate about that, and I understand why. I do understand why. You know, we're all, well, most of us are petrol heads at the end of the day, and if you're going to have a combustion engine, you're going to want a petrol. But cars like my 7 Series that I use for work makes 100% more sense in diesel format, and the reason for that is because it's a big heavy car. This is a big heavy car, and in fact this is over 2 tons before you chuck me and things like my bike, or you know, a family in or whatever. So it's always going to be well over 2 tons on the move, and in order to move weight, torque is the magic figure that you need. And this car, although the engine puts out only 345-ish brake horsepower, it actually puts out 700 Newton meters of torque, which is a crazy amount of torque. And that's the magic power that pushes or picks up this kind of weight and throws it down the road. And to prove that point, the 2-generation old V10 S6 Avant did 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. This one does it in 5.1 seconds. It's almost down 100 horsepower, yet it gets from 0 to 60 in 0.2 of a second quicker. Yes, some of that is down to the 8-speed automatic box, the quicker gear shifts, etc. But most of that is down to the almighty torque that this engine throws out. And as I say, that's the magic when it comes to heavy cars. Also, obviously, being a diesel, it's extremely efficient. Now, I went over to my best friend Aaron's house yesterday, and it's about a 25-mile trip. mixed roads like motorway, and there was traffic on the motorway, some A roads, and then some slow moving traffic through a village just near him. And I actually averaged 47.8 miles to the gallon. I mean, if I'd done that in the old V10, I would have probably struggled to get into, I don't know, teen figures, let alone anywhere near, say, something like 20 mpg. So I can see where this car and this engine, or this package, makes a lot of sense, because very soon there's going to be the RS6, that's going to be the ultimate, that's going to be the, I always call those sort of cars, like the M5 competition, the E63S, the RS6s, they are supercars, but they're supercars for the family. They've got ridiculous amounts of performance, they make the right sounds, and they're very sharp. They lose a little bit of their ride quality and comfort in return for sharpness on the road, and the ability of things like the RS6 are just insane and amazing. Whereas the S6 really is the sort of car that you want to fly under the radar a bit. You want it to have the performance, and 0 to 60 in 5 seconds is performance, but you also want it to have the sort of long distance GT ability, and that's exactly what this car has got. I'll talk more about the engine, etc. in my full review, but this does have Audi's new, I think they call it miniature hybrid system or something. It's basically a small compressor that helps spin up the turbos at lower revs to get rid of any kind of turbo lag. But ironically, this engine and drivetrain seems to suffer quite badly from turbo lag. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a bit gimmicky or what, but it struggles down low to pick up. But once you get it above about 1500 RPM, 1600 RPM, then it really starts picking up. I think about between 2.5 and about 4000 is the sweet spot in this particular engine. And as you can hopefully hear, it sounds really good. Now, a lot of this is definitely orchestrated, because when you put it into comfort, it goes completely silent. But I don't have an issue with the way it sounds. I actually really like it. Like, I'll knock it back into manual, drop it down a couple of gears. So second gear now. It's just a really nice rumble. It almost resembles a lazy sort of V8 sound. And yeah, as I say, I know it's not massively organic, or it probably isn't, but I don't have an issue with that. You change the drive select and you put it down into, let's put it into comfort, and the car goes completely silent. Knocks it back into 6th gear at 40 miles an hour. Easy, very economical, very relaxing. Let's talk about the ride. The ride in this is amazing. We're on 21-inch wheels, and honestly, the ride, especially in comfort, is incredible. And when I took Aaron out in it yesterday, it was the first thing he said after 100 meters in the car. He was like, the ride in this is unreal, and it really is. Bit of a caveat on that though. This has got the air suspension, which would have been a really expensive option, but you can't actually get the air suspension on the base S6. So this is a press car, and sometimes press cars come with options that you can't get on the production car. So if you want this incredible air suspension, you have to go for the Vorsprung model, and therefore you have to spend 80 grand. You can't access it from 60 and then buy the option separately. But I haven't tried a standard car on regular suspension, but all I can say is this, on 21s with air suspension, it's unbelievably good. I haven't had this car long enough to really talk about what it's like handling wise, but it does feel very agile, just like the outgoing RS6 did. Unbelievably well. It controls its weight so well, stays completely flat through the turns. This has also got 4-wheel steer, which just makes the car feel so much smaller and shorter in the wheelbase, especially at slower speeds. It feels really nimble, which is a strange feeling because the car is so big. You can feel the momentum of the car though when you get on the brakes. When you do pitch it into a corner, you can feel the 2+ ton of weight, but the way it manages that weight is unbelievable. Really, really good. Is there much steering feel? Not really, a little bit, but you know, it feels good enough, and it feels, you know, you wouldn't expect anything more when you jump inside this massive wagon. Things like driving position, really good. Talk about it all the time. These seats aren't quite big enough for me, but they're very comfortable. Driving position is really good in this. Lots of headroom. You know, I feel like I'm sitting low enough. Windscreen's right in front of me. I'm not looking at the sun visor. But once again, a bit like it was in the TTRS that I had recently, the actual ergonomics of where your arms go are not right. Like, I'm sitting perfectly, but yet my elbows are about 3 inches above the door card and above the armrest. So if I wanted to do a long journey or a long ride, and I wanted to relax my arms like you do on long journeys and just rest your elbows on the door cards, I can't really get enough of a purchase on the steering wheel. That's a bit of a pain. And I also got a friend of mine last night who's about 5'10" to get in the car and, you know, set his driving position just to see if it was maybe once again a tool thing. And he also couldn't get his elbows quite touching the door without holding the you know, the steering wheel with the tips of his fingers. So I don't understand how they've managed to get that slightly wrong. I'm talking, you know, a couple of inches. If the wheel was a bit bigger, everything would work, but then obviously you'd have other issues with the wheel being too big. So ergonomically not brilliant, but driving position is good. Everything else in here is just lovely. As I talked about earlier on the camera, I'm not a fan of the new layout of, you know, how to use like the climate controls, etc. I'm having to constantly look down. Let's see what it's like after I've had this for a week or so, but I still can't imagine that I'll be able to just look down and change the temperature of the car without actually looking down. So I can't just put my hand down there and change it. Beautiful virtual cockpit, but again, this doesn't have a head-up display. That is once again another option. So although this has got £15,000 worth of options, it doesn't have a head-up display, and that's where I believe the future is. There's nothing better than a head-up display. Forget about all these fancy screens down here. You want to be looking through the windscreen when you're driving and not down at things. So although it's absolutely stunning in here, it really is, I think some of it is quite flawed. Other negatives that I've figured out so far, aside from, you know, what I've just talked about and the ergonomics of where my arms are on longer journeys, obviously the rear exhausts are just a bit of a joke, and that does bug me a lot. It really does. It's so close to being such an amazing car. Forget about the, I honestly think that the diesel engine, in my opinion, makes a lot of sense in this car. It really does. It works really well. It does everything you want from it, and it returns incredible, you know, MPG figures. But the fact that you've got 4 fake plastic exhausts sticking out the back of an 80 grand Audi S model, it does grate at me quite a lot, because they're always going to be there. It's not like my M2 competition that comes with the ball bag exhaust, as I say it. You can change that. I've now got a Remus on there. That's an actual mechanical or physical part. These are just horrible plastic, I don't know, they're like plastic cups. So maybe someone will bring out something aftermarket and they can link it up to the existing exhaust and actually give us some real exhaust. But anyway, I'm arriving at Swinley Forest, which is my local riding spot. I'm going to get my bike out and try and work some of this belly off, because it's just growing and growing this year. Guys, please remember to check out my Control and Shift website, where you can buy t-shirts like the one I'm wearing, Rubber Fetish. You all know I've got Rubber Fetish. And yeah, support the channel if you can. I will be doing a full comprehensive review on this car, as I said at the beginning, so keep an eye out for that, and please leave any comments and questions below, anything you want me to cover with this car in that review. Hopefully I'll see them in time to add them to that video. Cool, thanks for watching as always. Please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you at the next one. Cheers.